This is 10-minute eyeshadow. So you take a dab of primer, you put it on your hand. I use Anastasia Beverly Hills. Take a small concealer brush, dab it in the primer, apply it to your lid. When I'm doing my eyeshadow, I normally use a small concealer brush. Make sure you're blending everything out smoothly, and remember that with this primer, a little goes a very long way. Next, take a tapered brush, and we're going to be going for that crease. I'm using a shade that is just slightly darker than my natural skin tone. Repeat on the other side. The key to this is making sure you stay right around the crease line and making sure you're blending from the in going out. This is just a foundation stage, a foundation layer. So if you go a little bit above and around, it doesn't really matter. You just may want to make sure that when you start moving into your darker colors that you're staying right in that crease. So today I'm going to be going with a reddish purpley tone. So I'm going to take my next darkest shade, which is a kind of dark peach. And we're going to be applying that into the crease right on top of the last layer. However, in this layer, as I said, the darker you go, the more you want to make sure you're keeping it towards the middle of your crease. You also want to keep this. You want to start moving closer towards the edge of your eye. You want to keep the colors, like with the first color, I went all the way to the very center of my eye. With this color, I'm only blending until about here. And then with the next color, I'll go progressively more towards the outer edge of my eye to try and get that wider eye kind of look. Now I'm going to come back in with one shade darker and a red. You can see I kind of went around a little bit outside the edge of my eye with the last shade of red, and that's going to help me make a more wide eye approach. With this next brush, or with this next shade, you might want to go to a smaller brush if you have one. I like using this particular brush because it can go to a bunch of different sizes very easily, but it's not a brush that a lot of people commonly have available. So use your best judgment, but just know that as we start getting to the darker shades, you're gonna want to get more fine with the details. So as you can see, as I create these darker layers, it's creating a widening effect to my eyes, which is very pleasing. Now there's two different brushes I'll use for this next section, just depending on my mood. Either a long tapered brush like this with a very, very small bristle, it's normally used for eyeliner, or one of these brow brushes, hard to say. And what I use this for is to put the very fine definition into my crease. I feel like I'm going to use this one today just because it's what the mood fits, but both of them are very good and you can use either depending on which one you prefer. So this is the darkest shade of red I'm going to use. I'm going to apply it very delicately into the center of that crease. Just kind of keep it towards that upper corner. So you see it's going to make a huge difference. It really adds a lot of pop to that. to that crease line. I might have actually gone a little bit too high with it today. It's okay. There's always a way to make something work. Never get upset because your makeup didn't turn out the way you want. I guarantee you it is just an opportunity to learn a new skill and to learn how to do things a little bit differently. And as long as it matches on both sides, honey, no one's gonna know that it wasn't intentional. You have complete creative control, so use it however you see fit. And just know that there's no one way to do makeup. So now that my crease is kind of defined, I'm going to move on to some more purpley shades. I have a very reddish purple here, and I like to touch that into the corner of my eye and blend it up into my crease. And I'll repeat that on the other side. So if you're familiar at all with color theory, what I'm doing is moving from like a dark red to a warm purple, and then I'm gonna finish off in the center with a nice pop of blue, and I think it's gonna tie the whole thing together. You're doing two complementary colors, these are two colors that are next to each other on the color wheel, so they're gonna look kind of nice together. It's like a red and then a reddish purple, and then you're going across the color wheel to a complementary color, and that kind of just makes the whole thing pop. So it's all about how you do it, but you can, it's very, when you separate complementary colors with a kind of color that's in between, it can make some really interesting looks. Alright, so I'm going to go one shade darker than that last shade of purple. I'm going to touch the very corners of my eye, kind of just darken this out. If you want, you can even use a smaller brush and add some kind of wings to the side to make it even wider, but I'm not going to do that today because it's a very simple makeup look is the point. So from here, I'm going to go with a slightly lighter shade. Is a very important thing because you want to go light to dark on your crease or on your eyes, but I'm going to do a lighter shade, and I'm also going to go slightly closer to blue, so I'm going to do like a slightly more blue purple, and I'm going to put that right here, and that'll help kind of bridge the differences between those two complementary colors, because even though they say it says complementary, they're opposite on the color wheel, and so you, at least in my experience, it really helps to kind of put some things in between them to kind of make them work together a little bit more, kind of make the look a little bit more cohesive. I'm going to just do the same thing on the other side, and over here. And now for my piece de resistance. These are my cream shadows from ColourPop. They are amazing and super pigmented, and I'm going to throw them on my eye, and you'll see why I love them in just a second. I'm going to finish this up. So it's actually so much shimmer, I think I'm going to add a little bit more layer of like a purpley shine in the center. And so what I'm using to apply this cream shadow is a silicone brush. This one is by Smashbox, and you can get it at Macy's. That's where I got mine. I'm just taking this, putting it on top of that purple. Just making everything go, and I'm going to blend it together a little bit. Make a smoother transition. And look at that, this took 10 minutes. This literally took 10 minutes. And there you go. That is 10-minute eyeshadow. I'm going to throw on some eyeliner to put everything together, and we'll finish up the video. And there we go, 10-minute eyeshadow. And it looks stellar.